So this is kind of we're going to do a business panel round table, no table but a straight line, business straight line of sitting men. I thought that was really witty, and nobody else.
I'm transitioning.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're still.
Okay, it's gonna start like dun, dun, dun.
And then we're going to do this for maybe like an hour until food comes, and then we'll take a little break, eat some food, get tired, and sit back down again. And
Yeah. So then at lunchtime when we break, if you guys want to do the same thing that we did yesterday and write down some questions that you have, and then we're just going to kind of answer them. And it can be a question for somebody specific, or it can just be for the panel.
And so what we're going to kind of do here is I have a whole list of topics, and we're just going to throw a topic up and discuss it a little bit. And your feedback is really good too, and everybody up here participate as much as possible, and I think it'll be fantastic.
Fantastic.
So the first thing on the list here is a business plan. Having a business plan is kind of like a roadmap and a compass of where you're going and where you're venturing off to. If you don't have a business plan, well, you don't really have a goal or a roadmap of where you're going. How many people in here had a business plan when they started their business? And this is very, very common for a lot of businesses.
Yeah. So business plan doesn't have to be something scary where like you go to a lawyer and I want the official business plan write-up sheet. It can just be literally a plan of what you're going to do to get where you want to be. And that's the definition of it. We're going to build a new trimmer store that comes out in white because they come out with all these new white, plastics. What's the business plan? Do we add it to Solution Finish? Do we give it a new name? It's Solution Finish Arctic or whatever. So you write a plan of where you want to go and how you're going to get there.
Yep. I like to use an analogy. If you were getting ready to set sail off into the ocean and you had no map of where you were going and no compass and you didn't know how to use the stars, you'd just be floating around at sea. And it's just super important to have those goals in place. And even if you are in your business now and it's already running, it's not silly to have to do this now, expo facto of starting your business. Anybody?
Shane, how many businesses you had several businesses? Do you write a plan for each one of them, or?
Not like a, more of like we have multiple meetings. I don't know that, when I first originally started the whole thing, I had a written out business plan, just everything really spelled out, because it was all new to me too. Because that was my first business plan that I have written. So that helped me to think out the process of what this needs to look like. But as we've expanded and, we're up to 4 or 5 different companies that we are now, it's more been discussed as a team, a lot of notes written out, and kind of developed that way. So in a sense, it hasn't been a written out business plan every time. It kind of adapts with each endeavor.
Well, I think it goes without saying we're all entrepreneurs, right? We're all growing and going in so many different directions. The biggest thing you must do is you got to write it down. Just because you think it out means nothing. I'm a single brain-celled married male. My skill level is quite low, so I've got to write these things down. And it's you can get off track. And you're chasing the squirrels, because a lot of us have ADHD. It's part of the business. So, and like myself, I'm launching a brand new product. And I've got a lot of hats. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to address this. And then next thing you know, you're going down that rabbit hole. You keep on following. And then months later, I open up that drawer. I'm like, oh shit, pardon my language, I was supposed to do that. So write these things down. And they're fluid. Don't be regimental and stick to it, because if you're not dynamic and adjust and make the changes, you've already lost.
Yeah. But hold yourself accountable for that, because if you don't write it, you change it mentally, but then you don't stick to the plan. That's what I found for myself. That helps me. So hold yourself accountable by writing it on a piece of paper.
And then refer back to it. Mm-hmm. You don't just write it and stick it in a drawer. Right. I mean, I assume, Chris, with you, how many times did you have to remill carbon before you got it to this where you wanted it to be.
All right, I'm an amateur at all this, always have been, you know. Built multi-million-dollar custom homes for 40 years. And when you build a house, you start with your plans. You start with the architects, the engineers. You do all this work before you even break ground. You know, a custom home has 72 different subcontractors, 18 things you have to order for those contractors, windows, tile, on and on. So there's so many parts and pieces. If I just hopped in and said, okay, I'm going to build an 8,000 square foot Tuscany style home, and it's going to be on a half acre, and I'm going to landscape the front and back, and it's going to have a big fountain, and you know, that's my dream, that's my goal. But without the rest of it, how am I even possibly going to get to the first step? The problem with a new business plan or a new businessman or woman doing a business plan is, what does that mean? Where do I start? I don't know what I don't know, and I can't quite, I can write down, well, I'm going to need, you know, parts and pieces and material and inventory, and I'm going to buy a van and put all this stuff in it, or I'm going to get a little location. You know, you can do that stuff, but business plans expand, you know, so it goes, to me, along with your goals. You know, come up with your goals, you know, I want to do $250,000 a year within 3 years, and I want to have, once I hit that, I'm going to expand to another location, or I'm doing mobile now, I'm going to add another van, and once I have 3 vans, then I'm going to be big enough to get a small location. And when I say small location, I see too many new businessmen. What they're trying to do is impress the other detailers on Facebook, and they get this 4,000 square foot building, and they put on all the wonderful equipment, and it looks in the floor, and they spend all this money. And let me help you with this, I don't mind. The first of the month comes around every month, whether you are ready for it or not. And guess what? All those detailers you're trying to impress, or the people you're trying to, you know, and you may not think you're trying to impress them, but I can assure you it's ego driven. You know, Solution Finish pumps out tens of thousands of bottles a month, right? My manufacturing plant is 1,250 square feet.
Yep.
Right, Richard?
Absolutely, yep.
You know,
That's a huge team there.
I have it set up where the parts and pieces, the chemicals come in, it's batched, bottled, capped, labeled, boxed, goes around, and it's out. Pallet full, pallet full, pallet full. I'm not trying to impress anybody, you know, but you have to have a well laid out location, you know. So business plan to me was always, when we talk business plan, to me it's a mind plan. You take a big whiteboard and you say, you know, professional auto detailer. Okay, what is that? Okay, and I start thinking of things that have to do with that. And then over here, I'll add to it. So I'm always adding, and say, oh yeah, shit, marketing. Well, what does marketing mean? Social media, you know, word of mouth, flyers, you know. So you keep on expanding, and that's the. Sorry, I got my hearing aid in, and that connects. So, but anyway, a business plan is goals, like you would have your personal goals. It's the goals for your company, you know, and you learn to add to it by talking to professionals. Say, you know, I'm kind of stuck on this. If you're not hooking up with mentors, then you're not going to be as successful as you can. Call the guys. Everyone here on my panel has a wealth of knowledge. You know, say, I'm kind of stuck here. You know, I don't know what to do. How did you do it? Can I see what you've got going on? You know, so business plan is extremely important if you know what to put on your friggin' business plan. You know, many books on it. There's a million things templates that will get you started. Get a business plan template, and it will ask you the questions you don't know to ask. It will ask you things that you didn't know you should fill out. And I'm talking about accounting and taxes and books. What are you going to do? You're going to go with online book accounting system. You're going to, QuickBooks. I mean, you got to figure out everything else, because I can assure you, if you get successful and you don't pay attention, you're going to find you owe $60,000 in taxes, and you've just been barely hanging on. You don't know how you're going to even pay taxes. Don't let that go.
Yep.
Save everything. Part of your business plan has to be business, marketing, taxes, accounting. You know, you don't want anybody else looking over your shoulder, and you don't want to owe anybody. You know, don't use credit cards. Buy what you can afford. You know, it's like student debt. People end up with $60,000 worth of debt, and they haven't done shit yet. You know, don't spend, $12,000 of borrowed money to make your shop look cool. You know, you're only going to be cool to the customer you're talking to, and your knowledge is what's going to hook them in, not how, your graphics on the wall, in my humble opinion.
And the sources that you can use, like he said, you can use a template, you can go to a lawyer and have it done. I have really over the last year immersed myself in utilizing ChatGPT for so many things. And sometimes you'll hear like, oh, that's going to give you other people's information or something. But the more prompts that you put in for that, so if you have like all of these ideas written down, like I want to write a business plan for an auto detailing business, and these are all the things that I want to have in there, and it will structure it for you and just spit it out, a really beautiful thing.
And then you add to it. So a couple of the things that we want to talk about is like analytics, right? What do you think you need to analyze? And then goals. And the thing is like Chris is saying, and I'm glad you mentioned that, you don't just think about like today, right? I want to own an auto detailing business and I want to be successful. You think about down the road. How much money do I need to have before I can get that van? How much money in our business, we have it literally, we write it down and it's a goal. And it's a revenue goal before we hire fill in the blank, another developer, another SEO person, another web designer, whatever it is, you have those goals. And it is fluid, because if something happens and you get an opportunity, then you've got to switch and change that. But constantly revisit it and look at the analytics have to be measurable and attainable. Okay, you can't just go, I'm going to make $5 million next year. And it's great. How are you going to do that? How much are you making this year? Well, I made, $65,000. Okay, probably not going to hit that $5 million mark if you do the same thing you did this year. So you've got to hit those numbers by looking at stuff. If you look at the profit margin and what that's going to give you and where that money is going to go.
And Owner's Pride, we're very driven by analytics. I have a meeting with our COO every morning. We look at all of the numbers, what our goals are, where I am on track for hitting those goals. And all the people that I work with in coaching, it's the same thing. How many of you guys look at your analytics? And on what frequency?
Every day. Every single day.
It's a great thing. You check that in the morning. We really do. And you use those to forecast and make decisions of what you're going to do in your business. If you don't know, if you have a product that's not selling and you're not making any money on it, or a service, then you look at the analytics. You don't just say, oh, well, I don't think, or I do think that I'm making money on this. But if you look at the numbers, they don't lie.
Yeah, and sometimes even on packages, the packages you think are more profitable, sometimes are not if you actually look at the cost, how long you're doing it, and sometimes like interior detailing can be really profitable. I know people want to do the coatings and the corrections, but I know a lot of people that are really well just doing interior detailing. So you got to look at your numbers, understand the numbers. Yes, it's a $2,000 job, but if you're there for a week doing layers by layers by layers, meanwhile, if you're doing 2 interiors a day, you're making more money, right? So that's all the packages.
Yeah, you've all, how many of you here do any kind of dealership work? Okay. Dealership work is not popular in a lot of circles. People, oh, I hate dealership work. There are people that make hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of dealerships.
Actually, probably much larger than
Yes. The
retail people.
because
Much larger.
it's not about the fact that they'll only pay you, you know, $175 a car. It's how fast you can get that car out. And most of the people that do successful dealerships that are on a larger scale that have, you know, 10 plus employees, it is set up to say it's $175 regardless of what I do to the car. Even if I just have to wipe it down, $175. Full on, you know, paint correction on the hood, $175. It looks great, $175. And it's every car that you roll through there. So like Chris said, get a mentor and talk to him about if you want to go into those kind of businesses, but look at the analytics of what it's going to cost you versus what you're going to make. It's all about that margin. Doesn't matter if you're making 100 million or 100,000, it's how much did you get to put in your pocket at the end of the day.
You know, I know a guy in Huntington started like a year and a half ago. Individual, probably, you know, if I'm being cynical, he's a glorified car washer, right? But he's learning. He's going to the classes, he's reading the books, he's watching the videos, he's educating himself. Well, what he did was in Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, there's probably, I don't know, 20 locations that do tremendous amount of business. You know, I mean, it's a high-end area. So what he did is he went to each of the detail shops and left his card, talked to the owner, said, look, do me a favor, and I'll give you 10%. Send me the work that you don't want to do. Just, you know, if a guy calls in and he goes, look, you know, I need a vacuum cleaner, you know, wipe it down, a quick wax. And these guys are doing, you know, Lambos and, you know, he's high-end hot shop. He's not going to full with a, you know, Ford Fusion. The guy was getting like 90 referrals every single month. You know, he's outpacing all those other guys with shit work, but he's happy to do the shit work because now it's his plan is volume and speed, you know, and you talk about how much does it cost you to do everything time-wise. There's nothing more important. I can tell you how much my steel ball bearings cost, how much my orifice reducers, how much everything it costs me an ounce to make, how much a batch costs. I know my numbers. I know when, because I pay cash for everything. So when all parts and pieces come in, I own all that. I don't owe, you know, American Express or have it in an account. I own everything. So when it goes out the door, I own every single bottle. And when that check comes in, I don't owe anybody. They're paying me back for everything that I've done, and what's left over is profit. You know, so if you know your numbers and you know your time, you know, expand your ideas and don't let your ego get in the way. I see a lot of guys, small shop, nice shop, talented guy. He's done one Ferrari in his life and he took 1 million pictures and that's his advertising. You know, I guarantee you my sweet wife, if she's looking for a guy to do her, you know, X5, she's not gonna go to a guy that does Lambos and race cars and supercars. You know, she wants a normal guy that's gonna, you know, she's not gonna be embarrassed taking it in.
Yeah.
So,
and make that part of your plan. The
Yeah.
key is make it part of your plan. You can advertise and market towards the high-end people because, you know, like I was saying earlier in the week, we all wanted to work on the Ferraris and the Corvettes when I was a mechanic. But the brakes on a Honda is what keeps the lights on. So if you, and I, like I said, I know people that they are the best mom minivan detailer in the world, and they're killing it. You have no idea how much money they're making, but they're certainly not posting pictures of Ferraris. Because let's face it, sometimes people that own a Ferraris might be a pain in the ass. Okay? And so other people have realistic expectations. If you're going to work in the high-end market, in part of your business plan is planning for the type of egos you're dealing with. If you're going to do personal aircraft, right? You own a brand new personal jet. There's a certain level of expectation with that client versus, hey, I got goldfish and gummy bears in here and I just want it cleaned out, right? So just work that into your plans of what you want to deal with on a daily basis.
And treat them all with the same respect. Because
Absolutely.
a guy comes in with his work truck. He really pays attention to his image of his plumbing vans. You know, he comes in and said, I really, you know, look at my trim, look at my paint. I want to dial it in. It's starting, you know. The guy's got a lot of money. He's got a Ferrari sitting in his garage. You take care of him. You don't know what's going to come down the line. The guy goes, hey, you've done 10 of my vans. I'm really impressed. What do you think about, you know, my supercar? I can handle it, no problem. You know, so you know, pay the respect. This mom with a minivan is married to a guy that drives, you know, Austin Martin because he's an insurance guy, or, you know, marketing guys that make a fortune, you know, telling me what to do. But anyway, this is all good. And
I was going to say 20 odd years ago, when we did have a full-blown, you know, detailed business, we had like 3 shops and we had 10 mobile units on the road. But what we did with all those shops, the one thing we specifically advertised in, and we were the only company in the world still to this day to ever get recommended by Mercedes in Germany as their preferred detailer. We only did Mercedes-Benz. That's all we did. But like Chris said, we looked after our customers, and we got shitloads of other jobs. We got Ferraris, we got the Jaguars, we got the Bugattis, we had cars going to Pebble Beach, we had cars in, you know, car shows, winning concourse. We did everything, but we focused on Mercedes. So we went into every Mercedes magazine. Every Mercedes magazine wanted to know about us. They wanted to interview us. We had radio, we had TV, because we core focused on just Mercedes. We have guys in England that do leather, and all they do is BMW. No other car. They just do BMW, and that's what they focus on. They're run off their feet, but yet they get all the other work as well, because they're looking after that one client. So we literally honed right into where we knew there was a good market. And at the time, Mercedes was becoming quite a good collectible vehicle. There's a great range of vehicles. It's a very old vehicle, you know, because it goes right back to Benz and everything else. So there's this whole array of cars that we could do, you know. And that was just one thing that we did. We just honed in on one type of car, you know, and that's exactly what we did. I mean, we were the Zymel's first ever authorised detailer outside of America for Chubb. You know, and that's what we were doing, putting on with hand, and that's where, you know, microscopes came in, and this is why we've introduced them into the leather. It's all from those days of looking at microscopes and with paintwork. I mean, back then, I mean, we didn't have technology like that. We had kids' things that looked like this. You know, we looked like nerds looking at cars, great big blue things. I've still got it, but they did the job. You know, and that's what Chubb wanted. You know, but it worked, and we just honed in on one type of vehicle, and that was it. Like people doing minivans, you know. It's exactly the same thing, but one other thing I'll say as well, what we do, so how we find a lot of stuff out, and I've sent it to different people like Russ and stuff, we have Google Alerts. Again, that's a great way to find out about things that's going on. You can put keywords into Google, and it will actually tell you what's going on. So I've sent stuff to Rod about certain detailers, you know, building having a fire, and it's like, you know, can we reach out to these people or whatever, you know, we just have Google Alerts. If we want to put in like PPF or paint correction or leather or anything to do with our industry, and we just get that alerted to us every single day. I get alerts multiple times a day about different things that's going on in the industry anywhere in the world. Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about earlier in the week, and I said I'd get back to you. So Chris and I, D. Giovanni, that does the website, so you guys heard me say that the search engine on Google for searches for ceramic coatings have dropped 25% in the first quarter of this year. The number of people that are starting up a ceramic coating company has increased 40%. The same numbers opposite is PPF. The numbers for people searching for PPF has gone up, and the number of people that are doing PPF is not up. So
you got to be aware of these analytics so that you can go after it. And it doesn't matter if you have, you know, Rod's mobile detailing and I'm doing really good and I'm like, well, crap, now I want to have a brick and mortar. I can't call it Rod's Mobile. Add it on, right? RoadFS is one of the products we have. We have a product called Harvest Point. It services farms, right? You didn't know that because it's a separate side of our business. We do other things. I have a helicopter flight app for the Department of Interior. So we have a United States, you have this, it's a bunch of hoops and tiny hoops and then a flaming hoop and then a great big one with a tattoo on your ass. And all those things get us that contract, but that's a separate business goal.
That was what I said to Russ the other day, and he was talking about the paint protection film, which is one of the Google alerts that I get. At the moment, that market is worth around about 535 million a year. That market is growing in the next 10 years to 940 million, just in the United States alone.
Yep. So
BPF market.
you got to do this with, and one of the things on our list here is leadership. Who is the leadership in your company? And it doesn't matter if just Chris and I open a business. We're going to find mentors, like he said, and we're going to go to business coaches and find leaders that can help us get where we want to go.
You'll notice something really, everything that we talk about during this session, there's a common thread that ties it all together because it's all just different components of the whole that's a business. And if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to participate because we'd like it to be as interactive as possible too.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a concern about your business, you're thinking, why is this not working for me? Ask. I can help. Very, very simple. That's exactly what we're here for. And even when the summit's ended, you know, if you want, we can set up this WhatsApp group. Like I said, you know, on there it's instant rather than waiting for emails delaying. There we can answer you all your questions, get you links, get you help, you know, maybe help with forms or anything you need. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, it's all free. We will help as much as we can, and that's what it's about.
The one thing I will tell you is don't call yourself a detailer. Don't call yourself an airplane detailer. You are your customer's your trusted advisor for their automotive needs. Okay? And when you think about it that way, that you're just a trusted advisor, they're going to come to you like, and I think you mentioned it, Amber's, they're going to ask you, where's the best place to get this or to get that. If you become that person, right? Oh man, Chris, where do I go to get the beanies that you guys do for your marketing? Or hey, Paulo, where do I go to get the really cool, you guys have that really cool tile on the floor? Or you become an advisor and they will ask you questions about stuff that you don't do, but they trust you, and that is a really good thing because then that helps keep them in your pocket.
It's like the networking where, like you just said, it's, for me, I was so nervous and I didn't know how to grow the business because I didn't even think to grow it. One, I had the mindset of, okay, today's the only day, we don't have tomorrow. I don't even want to think about tomorrow because I'm going to be disappointed if I don't, whatever. So then I changed my mindset. So then, like the networking part of like, oh sure, if I had two gentlemen that were like, hey, if I tell my customers about 1 to 10, what's my kickback? I was like, well, there's no kickback. How about this? I refer you, you refer me, we grow together. That's how I see it. And we were talking about it. It's like, I'd rather help, we're not a competition. Even if you're, 20 miles down the road, if you have a question about something, please call me. Or can I call you? Or, hey, I can't get this card in. Do you have time to like show me or, whatever? I'd rather have that type of community, just in detailing, everything. Like, you know what I mean? And I think I've learned in such a little time that I grow faster in my business with the connections I have.
You do. And part of that is to I'm going to try to say this. There's a lot of times there's not a filter, and so I'm trying to make one right now. So there are a lot of times you might walk into a room with people that are in the industry or that are outside of the industry that are suppliers or whatever, and you instantly get that urge to get a hold of your wallet because it feels like it's leaving. Pay attention to those urges.
Yeah.
Because there are people that'll be like, hey, that's great, and then this is how much I get. And you don't necessarily, some of those relationships are good, some of those are not good. They're good for the other person. Years and years ago when we started this at the bottom of the world in 2009, we connected with a company. We're friends with them and everything. I won't tell you which company it is. It's a chemical company. And we talked about the fact that you can order your chemicals or your products through our software. And they instantly went, that's awesome. So what percentage do I get? And I went, I'm providing you with a direct
service,
link
yeah.
for them to order your parts. What percentage of those sales do I get? And they were like, oh yeah. And I said, here's an idea. Instead of us passing $50 bills back and forth every month, why don't you refer me, I refer you, and we're all gonna be happy. And that is the way to do it. Do the same thing with detailers. I know that you guys are in the same area. You get somebody here that, hey D, I've got a great big job. I can't do the whole thing. If you could come over and help me, we'll split it.
Yeah.
Or even I'm busy, I can't fit it in,
Yeah.
You do it, that customer's going to still like you because you preferred and helped and solved their problem. Because the customer doesn't care, they just want their problem solved. It's very, very simple.
Yeah, we have a network that we created on that note. So we have a lady that only does interiors. If we're flat out, we'll send it to her.
Before detailing, did you do something else? Yeah. Do you have a memory of a boss who was like a really good boss? What? Share just a quick share. What was it?
It's to work in a warehouse, and that guy, that's the difference between a boss and a leader. And he's not like cracking the whip. He was right after. We get behind, he'd jump in, help us out, give me really good leadership advice. So when I was ready to move on, he actually encouraged me to do so.
Okay.
And he was very good at noticing, you're down, he'll like give you a shoulder, was very understanding of our needs, and very complimentary. Like, he'll tell you you're doing a good job, and it's like, oh, good job. He make you feel special, so you're doing a good job.
Okay, Eric, what did that boss do for you, or that?
We'll do it later.
Leadership, obviously, is
It's out there
key.
somewhere.
He was a good trainer. He taught me a lot. Like, I went into the job thinking I knew a lot, but then, like, this is where I was going to go. But then he taught me a lot more on top of that. Wasn't afraid, knowing that he could take me further. I'm still friends with him to this day and follow him, and he's still an excellent business person. And watching him grow his businesses over the past 22 years, knowing that what he kind of instilled in me works, and so I don't know, he always just follows up. If I have business questions, I can call him, that type of friendship and leadership was huge.
Okay. On the other side of that, oh, I'm sorry, were you done?
Yeah, I was gonna say on the bad side, I've had, when I finally decided to become self-employed, I had the exact opposite of a boss that was there just sucking money out of the company and really didn't care. And there was no leadership whatsoever. All he cared about was maximizing profits where we were at to make his pocketbook bigger so he could retire and not push to grow for his employees.
Does anybody else have a story of a boss that just sticks out in your mind that really sucked?
It sucked.
That did. Bad.
Bad.
Oh, I mean, most of them.
What you mean,
I mean, all the bad ones pretty much sounded the same in that they're focused on keeping you where you are, and they're not like they don't want to grow or develop you. They don't. They may or not see your potential, but they just want you to do your job, and that's it. Like, you don't mean anything more than clocking in, clocking out. The value you bring in that moment, that's it.
Anybody else? Bad?
He had what?
I think for me, I did the restaurant industry for a very long time.
Me too.
So, the men would be like, oh, I'd rather have a man boss only in that role because they were just very driven. It was like, okay, this is it. Okay, I want you to sell. And they were very like, okay, yeah, I believe in you and you could move up and do stuff. For the women,
Bitches.
They are, and there's, I mean, they are, they really are. It's, if you're a threat to them in any way, you're done. You don't get to move up. You barely have a job. You get shit into the stick. Like, it was, so that part, I would always stay with my company for 5 years. I wanted to do the sales and I would help. As soon as a woman came in, I knew it was over. And I didn't last long, only because it turned into competition. I didn't want the manager job. I could care less. I made more serving and doing what I did than you did as a manager. I could care less. But I wanted to take it to a different level. So I think in the food industry, it's very brutal.
Yeah, men don't compete very much.
No, we're
so
gentle and kind and yeah.
So like the point of this is a lot of you guys are going to start to grow your business and scale your business. As I look back at mine, when I started to get employees, oh my God, top down, just like horrible boss. And that just shows you like these memories from years ago that you still have of great bosses and memories that are bad. So make sure that you're kind of keeping all of that in mind as you start to bring people in and take care in that employee. I mean, employees are expensive, and bad employees are really expensive.
Yeah, I want to touch on this because Israel mentioned something that I kind of we've actually a little bit of background, and then I won't say it again tomorrow. We have right now 12 employees. We've had up to 24. They're all what they call highly compensated employees. They're nerds. They have multiple degrees. They think in ones and zeros, and the majority of our employees have been with us 10 or 12 years. For 7 years in a row, we were voted best place to work in Idaho. We've got multiple awards for that. I had an employee that came to me 3 months ago in tears, literally sobbing because he got offered another job. And he didn't want to take it, but he wanted to tell me. Okay, Dan, that's great. What? Excellent. He's like, no, I want to stay with you guys. Great. So I tell you all that because the reason that we are that way is because of what I like to call the worst boss in the entire world. And she would pick somebody out, and it was a female. She would pick somebody out, and if you were that person, everybody else was great. What's your problem? And you could be doing the same thing, and it was your problem. And then she would take you in, and she wouldn't fire you because then they'd have to pay you. She would say your services are no longer required, and she would reorganize the entire organization just to get rid of the person she didn't want to, that she didn't like. So when we started our company, we all said we are going to make a company that does everything that the bosses that sucked didn't do. So our healthcare plan is unlimited. It's whatever you want to spend your healthcare on. Our 401k is the maximum match. It is on day one that you're eligible for it. Randy works for us, and he comes to me and goes, hey, my computer's bugging me, it's gone. For up until about a year ago, we had an unlimited time off policy for our salaried employees. And we had a guy that has family in South Africa, and he was gone for four weeks at a time. So we go over the top to try to help our employees because we all had bad experiences. Everybody's had a boss that sucks. And Israel mentioned something. There's a difference between a boss and a leader, and there's times for both, right? And I'm sure, Amber, that you've done this because, Kenny. So at times you need to be a boss. You don't need to be an ass, but you need to be a boss. And you say, Israel, we got a really tight timeline. I need you to get that fiat done, and it's got to be done by 2. And you need to be very direct. But that's not being an asshole, okay? And then there's other times where you're a leader, and a leader, like you said, is, Israel, we need to get that fiat done. I'm going to take the right side, you take the left. Let's meet in the middle, right? And that is more of an example that you can do as a leader. I'm really hands-on. I'm always want to get in and do stuff and grab things. I'm usually the first one to volunteer to go do something, and hey, Jason, I want to get that polisher in my hand, even though I got a software company. I want to test everything. In our company, I don't write a lot of the software. There's about this many times in 15 years that I've actually written software in my own company. But one of the times, it is still in there to this day because it was a way to develop it in a very small manner that didn't take up a lot of space, and this young kid didn't know how to do it. And I said, let me show you. And I went in and I wrote this piece for the Android mobile to take a signature capture that took up 1 KB of data, okay? And it was just something from my past. But because I showed him, he said to me, he's like, that was really crazy because I've never had a boss in software that actually could get in and do stuff. Usually they're these idiots that are just in a management position. So,
hey, how do I apply for the unlimited time off?
I was about to ask you.
That's yeah.
Job interview.
Yeah. So the key to the unlimited time off policy, and people ask, was it really unlimited? It is, and I'll give you the secret. it isn't actually unlimited because of this reason. 90% of the people have a spouse, a girlfriend, a partner, whatever, and that partner, girlfriend, spouse, whatever, cannot take off 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So the majority of people take between 29 and 37 days off anyway. So
You
Bam.
don't feel trapped. You don't feel,
You don't.
You know what I mean?
you don't. The first time an employee didn't understand it, they're like, how much time am I supposed to take off? And I'm like, you're a grown man. You take off whatever you want. Well, let's say that I wanted to take off a week. Okay? But then I want to take another week off in July. Okay. What if in November I want to take? Frank, you're not getting it. It's whenever you want to take it. It's like, well, you need to tell me when to take it off. I'm like, okay, take off whatever time off your wife tells you. That's where we're at. So that there's you still have to approve it and everything like that. But in our industry, in my industry, in software, it is all about the benefits because we're dealing with companies like Microsoft and Google and stuff that give them these huge perks. So just
Why don't you do the unlimited time off anymore?
Because of that reason, people didn't understand it, and they would say, "Well, do we have this holiday off or that holiday?" And I'd say, "It's unlimited. If you want to take off Arbor Day, take it off." Well, what about Christmas? And I'd be, "Oh my God." So it became years and years. And instead of getting frustrated at them, I just said, "Hey, here's the average number of days off that people take. We're going to give you, which is still phenomenal, but we're going to give you 4 weeks of vacation right out of the chute, and you just decide when you want to take it."
How about Labrador Retriever Day?
We actually, I am a big lover of the dogs. This is my little baby bulldog right here. One of them. We have 2. They are. If a bulldozer and a rhinoceros had a baby, that's a bulldog. And I bring him to work. So I have a bed in the corner. We have a water dish. You can bring animals to work. Don't care. Bring them on in.
I think when it comes to a bad boss or a good boss, it depends what your interpretation of that is. When I started off when I was 14, I'm 55 now, and that was the first time I had an opportunity to come to the States with my boss at the time. He was an absolute arsehole, but he was also a godsend to me. So there's a double-edged sword here. I worked 120 hours a week, 7 days a week, because he was from South Africa and he was used to slaves. So I was basically like a slave. I did whatever I had to do to earn that money, but all I earned back then was $50 a week. That was what I had to live on. But I used it to my advantage. Every time he said, "Do you want to go to America?" I said, "Absolutely, I'm going." You're paying, he paid. But I connected with people that Jason knew, that I didn't know Jason back then, but I connected with very, very, very famous people, and I got snippets of information from them. I learned, because I wanted to eventually be my own boss, so I was asking these people for help, like Tom Monahan at Domino's Pizza. I was asking all these people for information, getting information from them and collating all this information and using it to my advantage. So whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, I turned it into a very positive thing from a very negative situation. So for me, it was an absolute positive thing for an arsehole of a boss, and I used it to my advantage. So it depends. Is it bad or is it good? For me, it was wonderful because it got me to where I am today, into cars with people like you. I turned it into a very positive situation. What could have been, somebody else could have probably committed suicide because of the way you drove them to do things. But that's what I did. I turned it into a positive situation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, think of your employees are not just a tool, but they're human beings. And the more that you invest in them and know about what their hopes and desires are, the better they're going to perform for you and make your business run better. Okay, let's do another one with a question. Tell me, does anybody have like a really great customer experience that they had going to a store or your service or anything? Something that really sticks out in your mind, like that maybe it's a regular that you go back to that business all the time. I bet you wish somebody was saying that they had that when they came to see to get their car detailed by you. Let's go on the other side. Does anybody have a really crappy customer experience that they went in where you're the customer?
It's too many to list.
Yeah, that's the problem, because you're, regardless if it is you or an employee, you're selling yourself and your business and your company, right? So when people see Dan and they see OP, they see Dan and then OP. And if Dan does not treat them with the respect and the, the care, then that's their experience with OP. So I always tell my employees, if you're going to go do stupid shit on the weekend, wear somebody else's shirt.
Yep. And so this kind of leads into like customer retention and things that you can do that kind of will set your business apart. And I was hoping somebody would say, yeah, I went and got my hair done and they did XYZ or something.
Well, I got a good example now that I think about it. A good one is, and that's not because you're here, but I had a great customer experience. I met Dan. He didn't make me feel like he just wanted my money like a lot of the retailing companies that they called you and they sell the idea that they're cool and you they want your money and you want to give them their money because they're cool. I'm sorry, but he cared more about the person and the money was next. He cared about the connection and the business was next, and that hasn't stopped. I have a problem, I can reach him directly. I can reach Damon directly. For the money goes from the top all the way to the bottom. And that's why I kind of stick around with them, is because how they make you feel. The money is still a business, they still want your money, but at least they smile, I can make you feel good about it.
You appreciate it.
And I think the difference there is that they want you to be successful.
Exactly.
And this is the key is, like, you want your customers to be successful. In our line of business, obviously, because we're marketing to detailers, we want you to be successful because the more successful you are, you're going to stay with us, right? And it doesn't matter about the money. And I'm going to pick on Tayton a little bit, just because Tayton uses detail booking, okay? And Kyle uses You're Able. We're still good friends. I still go help Tayton out. Kyle called me up tomorrow. I do something with them. I'm more concerned with them being successful than giving me $65 every month. Because that's how we make our money is off of it. It's like a cell phone plan, $65 a month, right? Whether you give me $65 or not, it doesn't matter. I want you to be successful because at some point, you're going to reach out to me and need help. And it might be polishing a black 77 Trans Am, that was pretty cool. And it might be something else. So it's not a problem. I've had those guys on our podcast. I don't care if you're our customer, you can be on our podcast, who cares? I've had Dustin Jackson from Detail Bookie on my podcast, pushing his brand because I want him to be successful. It only makes me better. So.
And on that side, yeah, when I was a detailer and the rep would call me and push product in the middle of the winter, we have 0 sales, it's minus 40 outside. It was a terrible experience. So now I'm on this side, I'm definitely not going to do that. I don't like the approach, just a pushy salesperson.
He was not pushy at all. I told him right now it's not on the budget to be installed for them. Call me the month. He called me the month, he let me the fuck alone. And it was funny because I was sitting at the gym and I was about to call him, and my phone rang with him. And that meant the world.
It was meant to be.
All the people, like, can you call me X? Like, okay, and then they just relentlessly just calling it. They don't respect the boundaries. They try to give, they just want your money. So.
Yeah.
That's like Yelp.
Yeah.
Right? Yelp is one of those where I've told them, I said, no, I really don't want to do business with you because at the time, since I am a one-person shop, sometimes I'll be booked out 2 months, and I'm grateful for that. But they're like, let's try and shove you with more customers. I'm like, I cannot do that. So every time I help, stop calling me. The worst was when this man called me and he still went right into his spiel. Oh, did that get me? I was like 0 from 60, super pissed, so fast. Because I'm like, you're not listening. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I don't want your services right now. So you're right. That's that whole thing. It's like, just listen to people.
So Yelp's motto is if you call enough times, they'll finally give you money.
There are other people in the industry that are in my business that'll do that. I've had people that have come to me because one of our competitors just kept calling them. They're like, I don't even care. They just are bugging me to death. I'm using yours. Take a look at the companies that you like to work with that emulate that behavior and then follow that. So Jason, Rupes, these guys are so open and so willing to do stuff for you, with you, whatever. I mean, look at all the stuff we get to do this weekend and this week and do that. that's the kind of thing you want to emulate to your customers, right? You want to be that open source where they can come and again, you're a consultant and a technician for them.
We took our Mazda to the shop for its 80,000 mile service. And while it's in the shop, I get an email with a video in it. You guys know I'm all about these videos. Anyway, it's like the guy with the car, and he's going around and he's like, these are your brakes. This is how much is left. I really recommend that you get this done. Your front brakes look fine, blah, blah, blah. This is your air filter. I just thought it was a really cool touch that they sent to me, and that's like things like that can absolutely set you apart, you know. And these people they love their car, so they're having it in there, spending $1,500 or something like that on it. What if they got a little message while you're working on it? Hey, we just finished the polishing step of your car, and look, it's coming out incredible. I'm so excited about it. You're going to build anticipation for them, and you're going something that really doesn't cost you anything, and it's setting you apart, and it's just that extra little experience that you're giving to the customer.
I do that a lot. When I'm detailing a car, especially if I want interior or polishing, I do that. I send them progress as I go. And they get all excited. They're already showing people. And I have people that call me to, hey, so-and-so, said you're in the car right now, there's so many pictures. They want to book. That really works, what he said. I do that.
Yep.
I show them before and after as I go, so by the time they get there, they can't wait to see the car.
Yeah.
I want to share, as I'm listening to you guys, I didn't start my career with the intention of being in sales, but I ended up in sales. When I was a detailer, you're in sales, right? You're selling yourself, selling your services. And I didn't know it at the time, but later when I went to college and after I went to sales training school through McGuire's, I learned that there's different ways to sell. There's different styles of selling. So there's the strategic or the tactical salesperson. That's the used car salesperson. If the customer says this, you come back with this. And if they decline that, you ask them 3 times for this. And, and all that crap, which I rejected early on. I'm like, that's just not me. So I learned early on what's called relationship selling. And this is a style of selling where you create the relationship environment with your customer where they just want to buy all your stuff and they want to stay with you for a long time. And Barry McGuire is the one who really taught me this, because when I got into sales at McGuire's, I was in sales for 10 years and then technical for another 10 years with them. But Barry's the one who taught me. He was like, we're not interested in selling the first bottle of wax to somebody. There's lots of salespeople that can sell, shit in a bag, So we don't care about the first one. I want you to sell them their last bottle. And what he meant by that is customers for life. And I actually have a book, I think it's in my office, I'll bring it out here. There's a book called Customers for Life, and it was written by one of my customers. And this type of philosophy, if you think about it in your world where you're detailing cars and stuff, when I was detailing, I had customers that were so attached to me and my services that when I decided to get out of detailing and I joined the McGuire's company, I had several of my customers come to me, or one of them took me out to dinner, and he was like, tell me the number. I mean, what are you talking about? He said, tell me how much money I gotta pay you for you to continue to do my cars.
That's incredible, yeah.
Imagine having customers like that. And they don't even ask you how much for the car, they're just like, do that car, do this one. They give you the keys to their house and you've got their alarm code. And I mean, I think of what you're saying, and there's just different styles of selling. And I personally was aligned with relationship selling.
100%.
You create the relationship, and then there's all kinds of things that are possible.
I can relate to your relationships now because I work for the University of Texas, UT, and we sell a lot of parts to each department, but they have an option of going to either Home Depot or Lowe's, but they come to me because I always give them the option. If I don't have it, I'll get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because if you don't buy it, the next customer will, so I can relate.
Yeah.
People can tell when you're desperate. You know, there's a difference between Kyle putting out a post that says, hey, I've got some opening next week. If you'd like to call KAD, I can get you in. And I had this stupid customer that canceled on me, and so tomorrow I've got a day wide open if you need a detail. Right? We've all seen that post. Everybody has seen that post.
And the post with all the copied messages.
Yeah, with all the
God. We wanted a GD. We want a full.
Yeah. So I guess the key to that is not having to, not feeling desperate, because people can sense desperation, right? If I smell it. Yeah, you should never be desperate, and it's just like when you're buying a car, right? When I'm buying a car, I'm very emotional about it. Cars are a big passion, and so when I'm buying a car, especially something that's a classic car, I literally have to talk myself down, right? Because I've seen the ad, it looks good. I'm gonna go look at it, and I'm like, okay, you can walk away from this. You didn't own it before it was there, and you got to be able to walk away. Your customers are doing the same thing. They're going to walk away if they can, but you got to do it on the sales side too. If Jason doesn't choose to use my software today, it's not something personal. I got to walk away from that. And it's, if you can help them, you can help them. If you can't, you can't. And everybody's not your customer.
Just think of ways that you can set yourself apart and do things to hit that dopamine button in your customer's brain, and you get a customer for life. And how much do you have to spend on getting a new customer? I mean, when we run social media ads, we pay $20, $25 per lead for somebody to click on a link to get it, and then you have to pay somebody to chase that lead and follow up with them and wait a month and call them back. So, same for you guys. I mean, you put out your ads, your marketing, you're paying for all that. Getting that customer to be a customer for life by giving them a special experience.
I've got customers that are in the leather industry with me now that were customers of mine, that were mothers' customers when we imported mothers into England. What we used to do at some car shows when Steve King was running Maguire's in the UK, I would actually go along, the customer would walk past with me, past my stand with a Maguire's bag, I would stop them and ask them what they'd purchased, and I would offer them a better experience. But what I used to do, I used to buy their Maguire's products from them, and I'd give them to a charity, and I'd give them mothers for free and say, try them, if they're no good, I'll then give you your Maguire's back and you can carry on. I've still got some of those customers today because they enjoyed that experience. Steve hated it, but it worked.
We very much so in the software industry, it's all a relationship. People do the numbers game. It's a bunch of garbage. You know, if you call 10 customers today, 3 of them will call you back and book an appointment, and 1 of them will sign. And if you don't hit your quota, you're out the door. Well, I hated that. Hated.
Yeah.
So one of the things we did is before we started our company, Jody and the 3 partners and I were at a different software company, and we met a client in Florida, and I think I was telling you guys yesterday, he's about $100 million a year. And we started a relationship with this guy. He's the guy from New Jersey that was real rough. And at this point, that client, when we left that company, we had a non-compete. He started another company doing business as so that he could do business with us. I have, just like you have all your stuff stored at Chris's place in California, I have my booth and all of our stuff for Florida events at the CFO of a $100 million company's house. My TV sits on his wall in his family room. And when it comes time for the event, I go there, we talk, we have a drink, I take the TV down, we go to the event, and then I bring it back. And that is 100% a relationship. He's building a new house in Boca Raton, and he called me on the phone, talked to me for about an hour and a half just to talk about his house. He has an Instagram account with 6 people: his wife, his son-in-law, his daughter, me, and Jody, and the CFO of the company, or CEO of the company he works for, and it's dedicated just to his French bulldog. So I take that relationship very, very seriously, and I try to emulate that. And again, it doesn't matter that he's 100 million and these guys over here are $65 a month. But Steve and Thompson, the owner of the business, we have the same kind of relationship. He'll come down to the office and just hang out. It doesn't matter. It's not about another $50. It's about a relationship and doing that. Because at the end of the day, when we're all retired and we're all sitting around talking about how great our life was, it doesn't matter if Dan made 100 million and I made 500,000. We're just sitting around talking. We're all just people, and it's a relationship. Everything you do, especially you guys, it is an absolute relationship because people are very invested in their automobiles, whether it's a minivan or a Bugatti.
So here's one that I see online all the time on Facebook. Somebody says, my employee missed this or blah, blah. They're just like venting and they're so mad, right? So if you're, first of all, not like really training and setting your people up for success, A, and B, how can you make that happen easily? And I'm gonna say checklists. And I'm sure this can easily get into CRM and work with it too. But so if you know like somebody's missing something all the time underneath the mirror or under the front spoiler or in the door jamb, the tips of the windows, that was always my big one. If you have a checklist, you can use this in a couple different ways. When you're checking in the car, you can point out any damage and maybe not be liable for it if the customer says, you put this big scratch or dent on my car. Second, you can use it as a tool to upsell. But where I think it's really, and nobody is doing this, and somebody's going to do it, and hopefully and prove my point right, is I think that if you had the checklist for the person who's checking the car before it goes out, then you're going to assure quality because everything got checked off. And if it didn't, and the person that signed off on it, then they're really liable, or you can hold them to the fire for it. I take that one step further. When you go to get your car looked at or worked on, or maybe you get your oil changed and they give you this 21-point checklist that they do, right? You probably don't look at that and go, oh, they looked at this, they looked at this, they looked at this. But just by having that in your hand, you feel like, hey, they did a really complete job. So not only you're protecting yourself for not having cars come back and having a bad customer experience, but if you're utilizing a checklist, you can just give that customer that arm around their shoulder and that kind of a warm blanket feeling of you probably did a better job because you have that.
Yeah, that's huge.
If I may,
You may.
we actually do that.
Yep.
We have a final checklist that everybody that, when we detail a car, we grab that. It's got one size exterior, one size interior. And it has at the top the date, the make and model, and who did it. It has helped tremendously on our quality.
In World War II, they were working on the B-17 bomber, and it was like the most technologically advanced bomber. And I'm going to snarl the years of this a little bit maybe, but Boeing and McDonnell Douglas both had a plane that they were trying to get approved. And I think it was the Boeing plane, it was the most technologically advanced. Until then, they did not use checklists in aviation. Well, they took this up and it had more bells and whistles and things and knobs and pulleys than any other plane before. And they were doing a test flight of this. They took it up in the air and that plane wrecked and several of the people on it died. After that is when they implemented checklists in aviation. Now, I mean, you can see when you get on an airplane, and we fly a lot, they're sitting up there, even when you get on the plane, the pilots are sitting up there and they're usually doing some kind of a checklist and they check. Well, since then, it really has made aviation accidents go down. Then in the late 50s, until the late 50s, they didn't use checklists in surgeries. So now, I don't know if you guys have had a surgery. Well, I know Amber has had some surgery, that's for sure. But say I went in to get my hip replaced. They took a magic marker, they wrote on my hip. They came in probably 5 times and asked me my name, who I was, what I was in there for. Checklist. When they started doing that, the mortality rate in surgeries plummeted. So if they can use it in these really big industries where lives are on the line, and think of how if you put that into your business. Who here does utilize a checklist?
We use it here at the training academy.
Yeah. Years ago, I owned I sold this business in 2007, right before the market crashed on housing, but I owned a home inspection company. And home inspections, everything is a checklist. And I went above and beyond as I put things in there to cover Rod's ADD butt. So I would walk in the house and I would put my car keys on the kitchen stove. Okay? And the reason I would do that is because when you're doing a home inspection and you turn on the stove to test it, if you forget to turn off that stove, you're going to burn somebody's house down. So I put my keys on the stove because it's the most dangerous thing that we're going to do in a home inspection, and then I would never forget to leave the stove off. Even though I had a checklist, I put in some backup things. I know that you guys do quality assurance with your checklist, and then there's a final set of eyes that looks at it. And if you implement those, it becomes second nature. You just know what you're going to do, right? And I think where a lot of people that you see online asking questions of, well, Dan, how do you do it first? Do you open the trunk first, or do you do SOP, standard operating procedure? Get your checklist, make sure you've done everything. The piece of software that we're implementing right now for the Aviation Detailing Association, it's an approved checklist by the ADA, right? So it's all the points that you need to do to cover your butt when you're doing a plane, and it's going to be pre and post, and it's in the software. Do the same thing. You give it to your customer. They may not read every little thing, but it covers your butt. It makes sure that you and your employees are doing everything you're supposed to do. And then if that client ever comes back and goes, man, I wonder how much brake pad was on there. Oh, they checked it. So even if it's not something that has to do with detailing, whatever, check the tire pressure. Hey, I noticed one of your tires was low.
That's what we used to do in detailing. We'd check the tread thickness, because obviously there's limits on tread thickness that you do here, and we'd check the tire pressure and actually write it on the form for the client.
Yeah, I know a couple of detailing companies that'll top off the washer fluid. They won't do any of their things mechanical because they're not certified to do that, but they'll top off the washer fluid, and they'll just tell people, hey, we topped off your washer fluid. Little tiny cheap thing, but it makes a big difference.
I paint a lot of calipers for my customer service I provide. I was doing a mini and I noticed the rudder had a crack in it. I went, changed it, and I took pictures of it and I told the customer about it. They weren't unaware of it, but they were so grateful that I did that. They only paid me for the parts and labor. I didn't want anything. I was like, I just want you to be safe. But they still pay me, and now they're customers for life. And even when the Venmo, you put the life saving, when they send me the Venmo and the little text.
Yeah.
Excited. I did that, and I didn't have to, but I put that in.
Yep, absolutely.
You talked about the other day where they had a plane crash.
Yeah.
That important? So I'm training now. There's a post trip that you're supposed to do, so someone should have caught that.
Absolutely.
Because you talked about this, there's a book in there.
Yes.
Even when we got on the runway, I said while we were taxiing when we stopped before we take off, we had a checklist that we still have to do to make sure everything still isn't good before we even take off.
So in some cases you can be really Rod, you can be ADD and be all over the place. But in certain situations, like especially aviation, or when I'm building an engine or I'm doing something like that, it is military. It is step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3. Your checklist, a lot of times, for me anyway, if I'm doing a car, for myself, and again I don't do anything commercially, but if I do a car for myself, I still have the same way I do it. But if there's something like if the interior is perfect, you skip that step. It's okay. With aviation or with safety issues, you never skip a step. Like a surgery, you don't want to leave a scalpel in somebody's leg. Where's Russ? He said that happened. Yeah. But in aviation, absolutely, you go over everything. It doesn't matter. You can't be tired. You just like a surgeon. You can't be tired. You can't skip a step. You have to do everything 1, 2, 3. Chris was talking about that today. It's 3 steps. Pretty easy, but people screw it up all the time. Vigorously shake the bottle, apply it to the microfiber applicator, put it on, and then wipe off the residue. You think that's simple, but people skip steps. I'm just going to dump it on the car. I didn't shake the bottle. Now I just got a whole bunch of the oil on there. Hey, it didn't work. Well, it would have worked if you'd followed the procedures. So we all do that, and set yourself up and your employees for success by giving them those standard operating procedures. One of the things I know that's really good about Stephen is he'll listen to feedback. So if Randy's seeing something that, hey, this is not working right? The flow, have you ever looked at the flow of your shop, of how things go in and go out? Chris talked about it today about you need to look at that workflow. I do these for some of the companies like Vroom, Carvana, and stuff like that. How does that vehicle come in and how does it go out? You don't want to move them around a lot where you're switching stuff around. It's like with UPS, they only take right-hand turns, right? You don't want to touch the box 15 times. So have a cart set up and have it laid out. Tayton, we're doing a ceramic coating. It was really simple. Yesterday he gave us instructions. He said when I do a ceramic, I go left to right with the towels. 1, 2, 3. That's all it took. Get everybody to do it the same way.
Also takes the stress out of the employee. If you have multiple employees, if they know exactly what to do and check it. Like we don't do it all the time, but with new employees, we have that mandatory checklist. And they follow it. It takes all the stress away from them too. Because sometimes they confused, they don't know what to do, but they'll give you the extra confidence to do it.
How many?
I was just gonna say with the checklist, is there, because I know that, I can't remember who it is now, but they've kind of got like their checklist that they will let, details put their logo on. But is there a template that is just a more streamlined checklist where it's just bullet points, not the pictures of the car, which I'm gonna walk around?
Yeah.
So is that something I gotta create on my own?
You can,
So-
but one of the things that's great about it is just mentorship. Just connect with people in here.
There's
Talk to
templates.
Jason.
IDA has some,
IDA
yeah.
has some-
Yeah.
You're an
IDA.
IDA member?
Yes.
So IDA has some templates on the
Yeah.
website.
On the website, there, yeah.
Yep. And then you can just integrate those, and if you want to put that into whatever CRM you're using, if they have the ability to do that, we do. You just put that into your CRM so you can physically check it off. Piece of cake.
And how many people here do have standard operating procedures for their business? Excellent, excellent. Are they written in a book or how?
I saw when we were at Taten's shop, his is laminated. It's not only written,
Yeah.
it's typed up nice, it's laminated. It's hanging right on the cabinet where all the products are, so if you ever need to refer to it,
Yep.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's really good. Think if you're an employee, and you're going somewhere and you have a new boss or leader or boss. A leader would have these out for you though.
Since I implemented that, thanks to you, was now when the customer picks up the car, and I'm the one dealing with them. They're like, you did a great job. I didn't even touch the car. It's my employees that did it.
Right.
When they leave a review, they say, Israel did a great job, but it's my employees that did it.
I heard a really, really great example of this at, so this last 3 months I've been on like 5 different trips. We were at a training in Oregon, and one of your fellow detailers, Kirk Evans, said this: when somebody comes to my shop, they expect my version of the Big Mac.
Yeah.
Okay? They come to Israel, they expect the Israel version of a Big Mac. If one day they get a Wendy's burger, it may be the greatest Wendy's burger ever, but that's not what they expected. They expected a Big Mac. Your standard operating procedures need to be what to expect at this shop as your version of the Big Mac that they're going to get every time as they come back. That's what they expect, right? If I'm using Chris's solution finish, I expect it's going to be the same consistency, the same everything, and I'm going to do the procedures and follow that. If by chance there's something, he got a bad product and I say, hey Chris, this is super runny, he'll take care of it. So that's customer service that he and I have a shared experience of what the Big Mac version of Solution Finish is. And we witnessed this the other day online. Somebody said, hey, I tried Solution Finish and blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey man, reach out to Chris. And he immediately reached out to them, contacted them, said what to do to take care of it. And I commented back and I said, see, that's the kind of company you want to work with, because somebody that backs their product and says, that's not exactly the Big Mac, let me help you get it.
The other piece of that, from a legal side, if you're get sued or if you ever have chargebacks on credit cards, and you can't, if you go into court or wherever you're trying to fight, you come in empty-handed.
Yes.
They'll laugh at you, but if you come in with SOPs, that checklist specific, in your CRM, you can print it out, and all this information, you have a much better fighting chance.
Yeah, exactly. That is the other thing. A lot of this is covering your butt, and a lot of it also helps to make it easier.
And so sometimes I'm talking to guys and they're like just beat up, like I can't write that, or like it's overwhelming, right? So they'll push it off and push it off. Think about how people take in their information these days. You guys are going to be surprised I'm going to say this, but they watch videos. You can also take your SOPs and put them into videos, and then you can change them at any time. It's a lot more nimble and flexible if you do it that way. And then they're taking in the information just like they're used to taking it in by watching a darn video.
What do you got?
I don't know. Which one do you want? We got a plenty to choose
Goodness. Just start mentioning some off and see if they got any ideas.
I tell all my new employees on my SOP how I have it hanging up. As soon as they first start, when I'm first training them, I hand it to them and I say, this is your Bible. If I'm not here, if you have a question, refer to the Bible. Before you come and ask me, read the Bible. And Maddie, she took on to that very quick. And I will randomly go out in the shop and see her reading it. And it has helped her tremendously.
I use Dustin a lot as an example because I work with him pretty closely, and he had some legal troubles with an employee that he had let go. It just like when he refused to wear a uniform, you know, and refused to come in, but having that in an employee manual and having that really helped him a lot in that case not to get screwed over. And employees got a whole bunch of rights in California. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But he came out okay on that.
And this is another area where you can use AI. If you wanted to go to AI and say, write me an employee manual in the state of Alabama for a detailing business that deals with motorcycles, boats, and airplanes, ChatGPT will print you out a pretty darn good starting point to get rolling on. Absolutely.
And like Dee was saying earlier, where did you get a checklist from? Tayton will vouch for how reaching out to people has helped him with interiors by contacting me for his documents.
ChatGPT can whip that out in 30 seconds too.
Yep. And the other thing is, again, I'm obviously the CRM guy, but a lot of this stuff can be stored in your CRM, and you don't have to have multiple places to keep it, and then your employees have it right there.
So do your clients, because you can just ping it to them.
Yeah. Client can have it, everything.
Yep.
How do you guys, hey, Doug, I'm going to bring my car to you. What are your standard operating procedures? Because I've got, a Bentley, and I'm pretty concerned with you touching it.
Ping it straight off. Yep.
Another important thing is having redundancies in your business. If you have somebody who does one job and that's all they do, and they get into a car wreck and die,
Or airplanes.
or an airplane for that matter, and you don't have any redundancies built in, does that make sense? Having not being you're the only person who can do one thing. Now, when you're a one-man show, it's kind of a given that
we
that.
We still have contractors for PPF and tint, because sometimes one of us is too busy or absent, and we call a guy in, and the client is always covered. That's huge.
But how many people have like a rainy day fund for their business?
A rainy day what?
Fund.
Going to banking now.
I mean, if things go wrong,
it's fine.
shit hits the fan, how's your business going to survive? If you don't have a contingency plan, again, it goes back to planning, running your business, like Chris was saying, having everything in place. If something goes wrong, 10 machines could break in one day. How are you ever going to replace them if you don't have a fund or COVID hits again? How are you going to survive?
My mom.
We got Chris, Mom.
That's right. I'm going to give you guys a real world example of our company, and we almost got shut down 2 years ago completely. And there's a lot of revenue that runs through our business, okay? And we live and die off of lines of credit, because sometimes I have a bunch of custom software. At one time I had 3 full-time contractors working for Microsoft. We wrote security software for Microsoft. Great money, horrible company, but they made a ton of money. And my employees are on a 2-week pay them, and Microsoft pays every 90 days. So they owed us at one time $300,000. So I have to carry a line of credit so that I can write checks to all my employees for 90 days, 6 paychecks, 6 pay periods that I have to fill out. So we're going along, everything's kind of fine and great, and all of a sudden one day I went to transfer money from my line of credit, and the bank said, you don't have a line of credit.
I remember. Yeah.
Click, you don't have a line of credit. Hey, VP of banking, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, this happened to like 12 of our clients, but your line of credit ended, it's a loan now. And I said, I won't say what I said because we're on camera, but I was not kind to the vice president of Zions Bank. And I said, this is unacceptable. I've got employees that I've got to pay. Here's my accounts receivable. It's huge, but I can't wait 90 days to pay my employees. So luckily, the bank gave me back my money that they did that for, and that was the last time that will ever happen, because what I started to do is I started putting money aside, and now I'm my own line of credit.
Yeah.
I have a very large account that now I pull from, and I pay the absolute bare minimum that I can get away with to that line of credit until it's paid off. And we're talking multiple 6-figure lines of credit, but I have that much money in my bank now to cover everything. And my goal is whatever my company's overhead is, I want to have at least 6 months set aside.
Yeah, we have enough, like for utilities, what we call gas, rent, rates, electricity, water, sewerage, all those sort of things. We have enough there for that and the employees to last us 12 months if there was anything disastrous would ever happen. We have enough on one side for 12 months. Then we have a second fund for what I call really the shit it in the fan fund. Because if that runs out, we've then got enough to then try to lay the staff off to then keep the business going, to pay the bills, to keep us in business. That would last us another 4 months. That's the really shit it in the fan fund. But we have two funds that would enable us to survive.
If I might say, solution finish, based on what you're talking about, easily, I gotta turn down my hearing, sorry guys, easily could have gone bankrupt last year. In fact, it's a miracle it didn't, but if I didn't have my reserves in a plan B, what happened with us is at the first of the year, 6 of my biggest distributors started calling me and said, Chris, we can't buy from you anymore. And I'm thinking, well, that's a problem. And I said, what's going on? And they all, generally different ways, but they said the same thing. We cannot compete with your sellers on Amazon. And I sell to manufacturers. They sell on their platforms any way they see fit. I always ignored Amazon because none of my distributors ever brought it up. It turned out I had 18 guys on Amazon. Half of them I didn't know. Some of them were fulfilled by merchants, so guys that I sell it to, they have it in their shop on their website and Amazon. And then the other big guys that I know sell on Amazon that buy pallets from me, they were the worst offenders. So they would chase the price down less than half of MAP price, which my meat and potato, bread and butter keep me in business, guys. You know, I have 640 distributors, but there's like 12 guys that are really big and they keep me alive. So now I got my biggest guys not buying from me. You got to do something about Amazon. Now I have 18 guys that I can't sell to anymore so that they run out of product on Amazon and I can turn it over to an exclusive guy on Amazon. I thought it was going to take 6-8 months. It took exactly a year and 3 months. So even with my reserve, even with my contingency plan, it was extremely stressful and terrible. I mean, because you do get to the point where you're out of bright ideas, you're out of money, you're out of, you know, so in a smaller way, you know, you can't spend everything you make. You got to put away for taxes, you got to put away, and it's part of your business plan. I'm going to put away 10% of everything that comes in the door, regardless of my rent, regardless of my personal needs. You know, you got to start building it up. It doesn't, if you never start small, you're never going to get big. You have to do that. I'm not as smart as some guys, but I know the drill. You know, I've been there before, and it's probably one of the most necessary things I've heard so far. You know, and real quick, you mentioned ChatGPT, PT, ED, whatever, right? I went to the app and I put write me a business plan for a new business, and it didn't know what kind of business, nothing, but it says creating a business plan for a new company is crucial. Step in outlining your business, strategies, operations, so forth. Executive summary, brief overview of your business, mission. The information's out there. Just grab onto it and start someplace. You know, that I don't use it, but I went, oh, I got the app.
Yeah, it's huge. We use it for marketing. We use it.
Objectives, summary of financial projections, stock options to Chris West. It just goes on and on.
Stock options.
Anyway, but I think with it is not only good for you've got to have a relationship with your customers that's coming through the door. I think the relationship that's also just as important, if not more important, than the survival of your business is your suppliers.
Absolutely.
Because many years ago, it's about 10 years ago, we were literally at the point of bankruptcy. If it hadn't have been for my suppliers and reaching out to them, for all these people that we owed money to, and we said, can we pay you small amounts at a time, we wouldn't be here today. They all turned around and said, you know what, Richard, you have always been absolutely golden to us. You've always helped us. You've always paid on time. You've never once been late. In the 20 years that we've known you, take the time. Do you need more time? Do you want to leave it for 4 months and pay us when you're back on your feet? And I said, no, we're going to pay you small amounts, like I said, to clear the debt, because I don't want to have it over my, on my head and over my shoulders. That is very, very important to everything that you do. It's not just your customers, but it's also your suppliers. Make sure your relationships are absolutely perfection.
Yeah, take care of your people. Take care of
because they helped us to survive. Without them, the bank said no, like with Rod. It was them that was basically my funding source to keep going, because then when we paid them, we're like, we need to order more, but we can't afford to pay for it. Just order it, Richard, we're going to deliver.
And what he just said is exactly how I survived. You know, I told you I always pay cash. I own everything. Well, when you order 10,000 bottles, you know, I talk to him and I go, your credit's good with us. Just let us know. Labels, bottles, chemicals, all of them. 12 years of business with them, pay cash. They said, just start drawing and, you know, we'll add it up later. You know, so business relationships of all forms is priceless during a rough patch, you know.
Even during COVID, I mean, we had stuff with Chris because we were doing a training with Chris and we couldn't get there. It got cancelled like 2 or 3 times with COVID, with trips and things. You know, there was like shortages of certain materials that he needed during COVID, and we were like to Chris, get the boxes, open them, they're all there, I don't care, just use them to help your business. Chris was like, bottles, I can't get them, we couldn't, but I'm like, I've got these, can I ship them from England to help? That is what brands do to help and support each other, and that is what I love about this as a networking organisation, you know, and there's certain things that would have never have made this happen, or for me to get here, unless it was for one particular organisation that's got me to know all these people, which is the IDA. I know some people don't like it, you know, the IDA is a great place, and this is what's made this happen with all these people here today. Because I'd never have had the opportunity to meet any of these guys if I hadn't have made that jump to fly to Florida to see the IDA when they had MTE on every year. And that's why this has happened today. And how I've got to know every single one of these people is through the IDA, because I'd have never have had the ingenuity to probably reach out to these people in the first place. But it's brands sticking together.
And I have 2 things that I'm super passionate about. One of them is getting people to use CRMs, because it's just you just have to do that. And the second one is pushing people into starting a retirement. Like in this industry, when you work for yourself, you don't have a 401k or, you know, an employee benefit retirement account. And most of the guys that you talk to, they're like, well, I'm gonna sell this business one day. Or I take all my money and I put it back into the business. And I tell a lot of the guys, if I'm 55 years old and I'm talking to somebody who's 22, I say, look, by the time you're old enough to start taking money out of this, I'm probably going to be dead. For our company and for, you know, me personally, there is no vig in this. Like, I have no advantage for telling you to spend your money on this. But my payback is like when you do retire and you take some money out of there and I'm dead, you're like, that little bald-headed bastard was all right.
That's right. We should start that, the bald-headed bastards.
And I have actually pushed several people into opening their own IRA. And I mean,
We have a right.
not that
it is absolutely a critical thing. It's one of the things that we were able to offer our employees after. And we had a goal, we had a plan, we hit the goal, we opened the 401k. It's a big commitment because as an employer, a 401k is a have to. You're signing a legal thing. So if you've ever had an employer, you have a 401k, it is legal. They have to pay that by the end of the year. Physical requirement, or the CFO goes to jail. So it's a great thing, but get yourself a retirement of some kind. People don't tend to see the benefit of it until they start getting to our age, and then they're like, oh crap, I don't have anything saved up. Me personally, I buy all NASCAR commemorative plates. That's how I'm going to retire. No. But Chris is exactly right. Don't spend everything you make. Put some aside and just continue to put away, even if it's a little tiny bit, so that you can. It builds up over time, and you know, there's other ways. You're an insurance salesman. There's insurance policies that give you at the end of your life cash. You know, there's. Think about your long-term future.
Get yourself a financial advisor.
Yeah.
That is it. To get a financial advisor.
I told my kids a long time ago, put a fund in, put it in. They've all been doing it since they were 18. I don't know how much they got, but I know they got something.
Yep. We
I'm
give our
spending every dime I got.
for our kids, we've opened up a mutual fund for every one of them when they graduated. It wasn't the most exciting graduating gift, but they all at age 18 or younger had a mutual fund in their name so that they could continue to put into it.
I did the same
That's
thing
a great
with my
idea.
son. I told him I'm doing everything I possibly can to give you zero inheritance.
Oh yeah, they're not.
Check out, broke even.
Yeah, it's just,
Oh, and a quick follow-up to that, right now I have 3 times as much business as I've ever had. By being here, when I get home on Friday, I will minimum be 6,000 12-ounce bottles behind. Minimum. Plus the orders that came in anyway. So, you know, sometimes when it's the darkest and you know there's no way out, you can't quit. You know, and then all of a sudden, you know, my company exploded because I did that policy change, and I had to sacrifice that year in order to be where I'm at now. You know, it's pretty amazing. After my wife's heart attack, she cried for 2 days when we started getting the orders in because she dealt with it as much as I did. Pretty incredible. You know.
This is definitely talk to your tax professional or an accountant about it. When I first started my business, I had a Roth IRA, and then when I started making some money, I switched to a traditional, and there was a tax advantage to that. Like, you put in the money and don't pay tax. So if you made $100,000 and you put $6,500, which in a younger age group is how much you could put in, you would pay tax on $94,500. Is that right? $93,500. It's tax advantage, right? So the idea is you're making more money now in your money-making years, and when you go to take it out, you're going to pay the taxes on that money at that point when you're in a lower tax bracket because you're not working. And then as I started making more money, they moved me into a, oh my goodness, what am I thinking?
It's an IRA.
Yeah, a SEP IRA, a self-employed.
It's a self-employed IRA. There's a specific limit you can put on it.
20% of your gross.
And it's great because you cannot ever take out of it until you retire. A SEP IRA is locked down.
That's stupid.
Oh, it's great. You can take loans.
But vacation.
Same thing with 401k. You can take a loan against it. If the shit hit the fan, you can borrow out of it, but you have to pay it back.
Yeah, I have a pension fund, and from that I can use it as collateral or security to do anything I want. If I wanted to put it against the house or the business, I can use it as security.
Yeah. So go talk to a professional financial advisor and a tax professional about the benefits, because there's tax-free and then there's tax later, right? And there's advantages, disadvantages to both. And there's actually a strategy of which one you want to draw from first when you do retire for tax purposes.
I'm back in a Roth at this point, so that's what's getting stuffed now. And then a lot of people are really intimidated if they don't come from a background or a family that pushes that stuff. And really all you got to do is go to like one of the big Charles Schwab or Vanguard or something like that, and they'll help walk you through how to set it up when you know what you're going to set up, and kind of help advise you. And don't just listen to your, somebody, buy this stock, because, oh my goodness, you got to do your homework when you're playing that game. But it's really, really, really important, like so much more important probably than anything else, because everything that you're doing now could be for nothing if you die miserable, penniless, and blah.
Bald-headed, glasses, fat.
I don't wear glasses.
I mean, not all of us can pull this off.
Yeah.
How we doing?
2 o'clock, say, it's 22 minutes.
Okay, we got about 20 minutes.
Let's see.
You want to get into some of that maybe, or?
Shoo. If we do that, it would be really neat to show a slide somewhere.
We can do it tomorrow morning.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that would probably be good because I think the two things would like really be great together. Leaders. How about branding? How about branding? What is
building your story brand?
Yeah, well, what is branding itself? You know, that's like the image. Like when you think of Rupes.
Yeah.
So that right?
You did.
Rupes.
Rupes,
You see their logo and you know who that is, or Coca-Cola, or you know, any of these big companies. When you're building your brand, like you have it right there, everybody has their logo. And building something that's friendly and really conveys what you want your business to be.
Yes. And then being realistic about your brand. So I worked for, again, ginormous semiconductor manufacturing company. We were $35 million a quarter, blah, 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 blah. They had such high restrictions on their brand. You had 8 colors that you could choose from. And you had to have this certain way, and had to be certain inches away, and that's okay. That was for them. That was good. Us, we're a little different. We can change our brand. We can have an American flag in the shield. We can have this polisher. Originally, we had a different brand, and it just had this. It's clip art, but it looks a lot like a polisher that starts with an F. So we realized one day that looked like that, and everybody thought that was branding for a specific polisher company. So we changed the brand. We flew down to Denver and hand delivered a whole crap ton of stickers with an actual Rupes on it because we didn't want our branding to brand somebody else's stuff, if that makes sense. So your branding should be you, and it should focus on what you do. Kyle's really good at this. Tate's really good at this. The people that I know in here that do that are really good at having their brand is what they sell. And you do not have to pay millions of dollars to get somebody to do your branding. Go to the local university for a lot of this stuff and have somebody that majors in that do it as a project, and you can get it for free.
Unless you want to pay Douglas Reed $207,467.
And then when you do it,
and
then when you do it, Richard, what are you just going through with your branding right now? You make sure that you get your stuff trademarked or registered.
Exactly, get it trademarked, yeah, because we've got a company now in
Poland.
And they've done like a swirl effect, but when you do it in half, it looks exactly identical to that. And they're like, well, ours is registered in Poland, and I'm like, but only 2 months ago. Ours is registered in Europe all over. So I'm asking you politely, rather than lawyers, I'm inboxing you and I'm talking to you, business to business, in the same industry. You've got leather care products as well as detailing products. I'm asking you to reconsider what you're doing. I don't want to go hardball, but if we have to, then we have to. Because we've protected this and we've spent thousands doing this, changing this logo from what we had. But this logo is very sentimental to the business. It was my daughter that actually drew the original logo because it was an original triangle. And when she drew it, we were all there brainstorming one day. She was sat in the living room. She was 5, 6 years old. She comes running into the dining room where we were, plonks it on the table and goes, "Is this any good, Dad?" and just runs off again. And we were sat there and we were like, holy shit, yes, because we were doing everything so bloody complicated with the logo, just made everything complicated. And she came in, instead of it saying leather repair company, she had a leather repair company that way. And we were like, that's exactly what we need. And the thing is, you've got to think when you're doing a logo, it's simplicity of reproduction as well. So obviously that is just black and white. But we also have it in 4 different colours, because we have 4 different colour ranges. Yeah? So you have clean, protect, repair, restore. And they're all a different colour range. And each one of our labels is a different colour for that range. So we can have the logo in those colours as well as black, because that's the accessories. But again, you've got to make sure everything is covered, because this is your asset. That logo is your business. It is of great monetary value to you. So you've got to have it protected. Get it protected, get it sorted, get it copyrighted, get it trademarked. You've got to do it. Because
does anybody in here know how to get something copyrighted?
No.
Let me show you. Amber, you and I are going to start a business today. Okay?
Okay.
We're going to call it Amber and Rod's detailing cool products. Okay? And this is our logo. It's awesome. It's got a polisher right here. It's a great polisher. And
my
we're
number is 207
11 2024. Okay? Watch. This is my actual signature. That is copyrighted right now. That is copyrighted. Because we wrote it down and it's in public, I just copyrighted that because I signed my name to it and dated it. If I took a picture, I would own that copyright of that piece of crap I drew. Okay? That is absolutely, in the United States, that's a copyright. You can put the little C by it. TM, or TR is TM is a trademark, and you have to go through the Federal Trade Commission, and there's a submission process. And then R is a registered trademark. Registered trademark is the most highly protected. It costs money. And between this wonderful brainstorm and an actual registered trademark, it goes through a crap ton of stuff. And somebody, like let's say there's another ARDCP, can come out and go, nope, you can't do it. And they can shut you down just because they say no. You can get on a list, a watch list. Richard's probably on one for anybody that has leather repair. We're on one for somebody that has CRMs. And you can get notified when somebody tries to register one. So you don't have to go through all that process. As soon as you make something up, you get to put that C on it. So this is now copyrighted. Neener. We own it. You and me. We'll split that. No, you don't get any of it.
Kenny's out.
How similar to your logo before you can like come after them?
You can go after somebody even if it's not similar. I will give you a lovely example that was worth many tens of thousands of dollars to us. Originally, my parent company, we're called Zenware. It's a software term, it means easy to use software, Zenware. Okay? The product we had was called ZenTouch. Kind of a play on Zenware, right? Touch, phone. There's a company, we tried to register that, we got it copyrighted. We went through the registration process, and all of a sudden a company called Zendesk, we had a lawsuit. And our attorney said, oh, you'll win. They can't own the word Zen, and you'll win for sure. But it will cost you, he goes, initially it's gonna be about $20,000, and then it's however long they wanna drag it out. And it's a tactic that companies with deep pockets try to do to drain you so you'll just give in. So we very poignantly said, well, the name doesn't mean that much to me, so we changed the name. But it's as soon as you copyright it and go do it, but anybody can do it. The famous case that is a precedent for this is McDonald's. You may have heard of them. And there's a hamburger place called McDowell's. And McDonald's tried to sue McDowell's. And McDowell's said that name is worth $40,000, and they won. Because McDonald's does not sound the same as McDowell's, and they had a different enough logo. And that's kind of the description, it has to be different enough. So if I wanted to have a logo that was red and it said Rodney's, and it was cocked a little sideways and it was in white letters, I could win. But Rupes has deeper pockets than I do. So they would probably go after me for that. So. Anyway.
Yep.
I have one guy that came up with a trim product, and my tagline is brings black back. You know, sounded good at the time. And he put up a trim restorer and says, brings black back. I'm like, that's kind of shitty. You know, I mean, I got it all trademarked. You know, copyright is one thing, but trademark, you know.
Yeah.
So I got a trademark attorney to send him a letter. You know, instantly changed it. So no fees, no nothing, cost me $600 for the letter. So he changed it to bring the black back. It's an industry term. I said, that fucker. Well, depends on how deep your ego needs to be, and really does it make any difference other than, you know, putting your foot down, you know.
Yeah.
And he went out of business, you know. So, but nevertheless, it's, all this is important stuff, guys.
Yep.
You know.
I was just saying, why don't you just call it Bring It Black?
I'm sorry?
Bring It Black.
Bring it black. Oh, they
Black,
can screw
black.
me 100 different ways. You know, originally it was Mother's Back to Black,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I found out the hard way
Guys,
that.
And actually, I called Jim at Mother's and I said, you know, I kind of screwed up. I wasn't paying attention. I put brings the black back. Here's the back to black. Is that going to be an issue? He goes, you know how friggin' big we are, you know? So not a problem. You know, sometimes it's just,
Ego.
sometimes you got to stand and fight, and sometimes.
Yeah, this logo is really similar to a chemical company that had a logo like this for their 60th anniversary. And I called Bob Phillips before we did this and I said, hey, I noticed that our design looks a lot like yours. Give me a call back because I don't want to, you know, step on any toes or anything like that. And he wasn't there, so I left a message and I got a message back and he just said, fuck no. And he goes, no, I'm just kidding. You guys are fine. You can do whatever you need to do. You guys are great. We're not worried about it at all because it's enough different.
Yeah, it's like
Just be respectful.
Chris was saying with Mother's Back to Black, they own the trademark Back to Black in America. Obviously, we were importers into England and Europe. They don't own it anywhere there. Another company does. We got served a cease and desist because we were the distributor. So I went to Jim and said, what the hell's going on? And he's like, oh, shucks, sorry, we forgot to tell you. Let me ship you some new labels that say something completely different, similar to what you've said. And they had to ship me new labels. We had to take everything off sale, shut the whole Mother's website down because these lawyers were big deep pockets with the big chemical company and they were going to put me out of business. And it does happen, but they don't own it in Europe, but they do it in America.
Yeah.
Just be respectful on logos and branding and all that stuff and make it unique to yourself, right? I mean, you can play off of whatever you want. You know, yours is awesome. But just be respectful. If somebody really is stepping on your toes, do something about it. But unless you got deep pockets, it's a lawyer's
And
game.
Google it. You know, you get an idea, you think it's cool, Google it. I mean, it's there anyway. It's all going to pop up. So a little research before you make 20,000 brochures and T-shirts and labels and, you know, man wraps and everything else. You know, because nobody's going to notice now, but I can assure you they're going to notice when you get big. That's when you've already really are in a
Just ask
financial-
Apex.
I haven't caught it now and not later.
Yeah, you guys are.
Yeah.
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 That's the whole thing is just check.
I have a question, really quick. So I guess I feel like somewhat old school, but or trained. Maybe this is from the restaurant business, but when we were doing like our colors, it was like, okay, do we just set one color so that way it's like image for like people to see, so they always see it in that way. They always see that image. But we've also been like, well, I want to wear like bright colors, hot pink, yellow,
Right.
orange, like that stuff too. So does it really matter? Do you need to set at that same color, the same brand? Like
It's
use
really
your
up
brand,
to you.
but
Yeah, I'm sure Rupes has to be the red and the white, but if you notice, they have it on different things. I've got a gray shirt that's got the Rupes on it. I've got a black hat. Ours, we do all kinds of colors. Like we just did one that's a big sunburst thing. We've done one that's in purple. You know, in Tayton's case, he's got this blue color. So you know, it really. It doesn't matter. It's up to you individually. You own the company. You can do whatever you want.
right.
Right?
I'm just saying what would help, like I guess for that repetition.
We have our colour set for everything that we do. For the 4 colours, they're set colours that's guaranteed.
On your
print.
bottles.
On the bottles.
On the bottles,
everything,
yes.
clothing,
Yeah, the
everything is
bottles,
set,
okay.
guaranteed colours. We give people a complete document that's about 30 pages long that our designers have done, which is all about our branding, how they should have it, how they shouldn't have it, where it should be placed, how they can't stretch it, put it this way, put it that way, the colours, the CMKY colours, every single type of print colour, format, font, everything we've designed, and it's on like a 20-odd page document. And every time someone goes to print something for us, we just say, "There's that. Follow it. Don't follow it, we won't pay." Very simple.
Yep.
Simple as that.
All right.
To answer your question though, I do believe that consistency is key for consumers. So you can help your customers get acclimated to your brand with consistency.
Okay.
Yeah.
They recognize it, even if they're passing in another environment, but they recognize it, and it creates a fidelization with the client.
Okay.
So for instance, the consistency is the way it looks, not the colors.
Okay.
So there's the American flag version, this is the blue version, there's a red version, but they all have the same things, right? Richard could put that on a gray jacket, but it's the same logo, the same font, the same, the consistency is there, it's just that it can be on different things, right?
I've seen the Rupes one with black and
It's the same on the back.
black or black and
You know,
white.
it's the same way, but just different.
It's non-compliant,
different layouts.
black
Yeah,
and
it's
white.
gotta be red with the white
Canada
letters.
one has the Canada flag in the center of it.
It's on your,
American one has the
yeah.
American flag in the center of it, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and so like we'll change this gray background to like a flames or pink or purple or whatever, but every other element is the same. The size of this thing, the font, all that stuff.
Okay.
There's a good book I can recommend on branding, sorry. Married to the Brand. I'll get it in my office in just a second, but that book, I forgot the author's name. But it's a good read about branding. And the main message about Married to the Brand is about consistency and about your relationship with your consumer of your services. And branding is super important because consumers, especially American consumers, it is all about brands. They are loyal to brands. They buy by brands. They live and die on brands. I mean, I'm a Jeep guy, and I love Toyotas, but when we meet on the trail, it's a battle.
Yeah, I know.
We have all these comments about how I'm going to pull them out of a ditch because they got stuck. And, branding's super important, and to the extent that, so I've been a Jeep guy my whole life, and I am disappointed in the corporation because Jeep is violating their brand promise. If you think about everything, when I say the word Jeep, you guys all have something that pops in your mind. So I'm like, why the fuck would they come out with a vehicle like the Jeep Compass? Talk about a violation of the brand.
That was the Fiat side, you know.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well, it was business. It was all about business. But that is my point. Now, as you're beginning your career, your business or whatever, you're creating a brand. So there's a lot of suggestions on how to create a brand. But years later, when you have an established brand with your customers, don't fuck with it. I mean, they are following you. Don't be a moving target because it confuses people.
Yeah. You know what?
That one right
I
there,
think
you guys
of
recognize that everywhere.
Huh?
Every time I think of Jeep, there's a stupid sticker that says, "If you can read this, roll me over."
Exactly.
The new Renegade, I'm sorry, that thing, anybody have a Renegade? The new one?
Yeah,
I know, I really should have read the rules better. That one just
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's stupid, some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, the new Mustang,
Oh.
whatever, that's a freaking
SUV.
I think those look all right.
That was really bad. Bring back the So,
For a Corvette, you can't get in a manual.
exactly, no
Yeah.
manual in the Corvette, yeah. So I think that's one of those things that people, read this book and look at it. There's certain elements you want to be absolutely 100% the same always. Ducati, you mentioned that yesterday, Russ. Ducati is that brand. If you go look, it's always Ducati, right? It's the same one. Snap-on tools, Mac tools, Chevrolet. Just think about those brands. Pepsi, Coke. You know.
It's like when this was all started, it was 3 of us, and that's where we got the letter Cats. Because when they call her, they're like, "Hey, Cat," and I'm like, even though she tells them Amber. So we lost one of the people that was in our group, and I was like, "Why don't we change the name? Because that's what people know." So we just knocked it down, and it was Kenny, Amber, and Tim. So detailing it first. Now we're just like, I'm like, now I'm gonna say
Apps.
Kenny, Amber, trying shit.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just call whatever we did up there. It's the T.
Yeah.
That's our.
Yeah.
I got a story about Mr. Hill and Mr. Packard.
Yes.
So I worked directly for Mr. Hewitt, Mr. Packard for 14 years. And I asked him one day, I go, how did you guys come up with the name? He goes, we flipped a coin. That's how they did it. He said, if it had been P, it would have been PH, or it would have been. I was like, that's how they came up with it.
Yep.
And it's stuck.
I think with brand consistency, everything that we do, we want everybody to replicate, and he will tell you what we give as a company to a distributor. What do you get?
Oh, I get all the information. There's like SOPs, everything is ready to go. Design-wise, we got everything from business cards to logos. Everything is in the package. It was perfect, super easy to use.
Yeah.
And thousands of pre-made adverts.
Yeah, everything ready to.
Brochures, labels, anything that they want, they literally replicate us in their country identically.
From websites to everything. We know the guidelines, so it's easy to use. You cannot divert from that, which is fine, because building a brand, that's all you want.
And there's the Google Drive folders, it's got thousands of documents and photos and everything in it that you possibly ever need. Even Thomas Hughes, you'll probably know Thomas Hughes from Maguire's distributor in Norway. Even Thomas says, I get more from you than I actually ever got from Maguire's for guidance and help and everything else. He's a huge distributor in Europe, probably one of the biggest distributors out of America and Europe. And even Thomas says, for him, for LRC Norway, it's phenomenal. You can't ever go wrong. It's just literally success. You've literally just given me your whole business apart from your bank account, and I've got everything to go.
Well, the message for you guys, because you might be thinking, well, this isn't relevant to me. And Rupes has a 30-page brand guidelines for our distributors. But to make it relevant to you guys where you're sitting here, if you don't have a brand statement, this is something that you should just take time to at least think about, but write it down. What does your brand mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What do you want to stand for? And then write it down, because that is your brand. Forget the diagram of your logo and all that stuff. That's important. But your brand really is a statement about who you are, how you do business, how you want customers to perceive you. Ask yourself that. How do I want my customers to perceive my business? And write it down, because what you write down, that's your brand.
And if I can mention domain names, your website is going to be so important obviously as you go. When I got solutionfinish.com, number one, nobody knew what the hell that meant, right? And nobody ever heard of it, so they weren't clicking in when they're thinking about their trim, solutionfinish.com. So I got several domain names. I was able to get trimrestore.com. So no matter what guys put on their bottles, they could never take trimrestore.com. So what Jason said about, what does your brand represent? Make sure that any little combination, if it's $27 every 3 years to grab something that you're never going to use, right? Anything that's in that space, go ahead and grab it, And it
absolutely.
And it means something different to everybody.
Yep.
And you can always point those to your website too.
Yeah.
Yes. And the last,
for instance, I'll tell myself. When I first started, there was a competition, a guy that was pretty much the #1 in my area, It was called Black Wow. Well, he beat me up on social media. He's the one who Brings Black back. Anyway, so a few years later at SEMA, he introduced Blackwell Pro, his new thing to compete with Solution Finish. Well, I'm sitting in a hotel at SEMA and I went, GoDaddy, Blackwell Pro. Oh, that's available. And I had it for like 8 years before that went away, but it's not noble, but it made me feel.
So here's the other thing I'll tell you. This is the last thing I'll probably say before we turn this to Richard. But and Chris brought up domain names. We'll talk some more about this tomorrow when we talk about CRMs and stuff. But make sure that you personally own your domain.
Yes.
There are web companies out there that'll go, no problem, I'll take care of it. It'll only be $50 a month, but they own solutionfinish.com. And if you ever want to leave,
and your website they own.
yeah, they own it all. If you ever want to leave, you can't own that domain. So make sure you personally own it. You own D's, you own D'sNuts.com, D'sCookies.com, whatever. Everything. You know, it's.
But you're leaving something out. They will sell it to you.
Oh, they'll sell it to you. Just keep it.
Oh, they will.
So make sure you own it. And if you don't, find out why, and do that, because yeah, just reassurance, you got to own it.
Yeah, I mean, like with domains, I mean, we had it once years ago. I mean, me being a crafty sod, I had this company where you always do it again. Them, oh, do you want to buy this domain name? We've got this, it's coming up. I actually sat there and went onto my Fastos account when this company came along and said, leather sofa repairs. Sofa's a couch. Leathersofarepairs.com. It's actually a very generic, very well searchable term on the internet. Globally, I sat there and they were trying to sell me this domain name for $2,000. Well, I sat there, I bought it because they hadn't actually registered it.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I offered it to them. I literally bought it right there with this person. You can't own it. We do. I'm like, I suggest you go check because I just actually bought it. They didn't actually own it and they were trying to sell me it. That's what some of these companies do as well.
Oh, wow.
I literally bought it on the phone there and then.
Yep.
All right, so that was just I enjoyed the heck out of this. I hope that everybody got something good from it. And all of the people, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure I can. All these people up here can help you with any of that. And we really only scratched the surface of topics that we wrote down to, throw up. So really, really cool. Take a few minutes break, and then it's time for the leather.